Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to Apply. All right, so today I am in Irvine, California at the Medical Innovation Forum, and I have Peman Montazemi on the line. Peman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
So I like that name, first off, Peman. How'd you tell me to remember how to say it?
Oh, pay me on Monday.
There we go. So what brings you out to the forum today and to the conference?
Sure. So the founder and CEO of Finally Quiet, and I'll be presenting basically Finally Quiet tomorrow at 10:30, local.
So talk to me a little bit more about Finally Quiet.
Sure, absolutely. So my wife is a dentist, and then so 11 years ago, she stepped into our car. We were very lucky to carpool at the time. And then she basically banged on the on-off button of the radio, and she said, I can't tolerate a single sound. So I'm like, okay, did you have a bad day? Did you have a difficult patient? Did you get into a fight with a coworker, whatnot? And she said, I have tinnitus, which is ear ringing in one ear. In the beginning of that, I have a huge headache. You're a biomedical engineer. Why don't you do something about it? And the rest of the trip was completely silent until we got home. I promise you that.
So were you an entrepreneur before this company or
Yes, absolutely.
Go a little bit further back. Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So I've been in medical devices for 24 years. I've been extremely fortunate to be, part of 4 companies that have exited, between $10 million and $2 billion. And then so I saw an opportunity, to make a difference because most of, products that are currently on the market, including, active noise canceling headphones, they only work up to 1,000 hertz, which is low frequencies. And then so we covered 19 times more frequencies that are all the high frequencies generated by dental instruments. And she called the solution basically Finally Quiet because she said it came from the heart.
So your wife wasn't sending you on a wild goose chase. You had experience, you've been doing things before. She wasn't so she's telling you, okay, here goes your next company.
Yeah, exactly, pretty much. And it took us 11 years to come up with a solution that, protects, the hearing of dentists and any kind of operator that is in the clinic, in addition to the patient. So the patient has also a piece, and now we have 2 pieces of real estate in place, and we put them in communication with each other via AI, speech recognition. You can put the patient into conversation. You can have them leave and listen to music. You can talk to the front desk, and that's how basically Finally Quiet, came alive.
Yes, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of executives, a lot of CEOs out there that watch this, and I'm always curious. You say 11-year journey. This is only a 7-10 minute interview, so we don't have it all today. But
Sure.
What are some of the things that got you here today? That's a long journey in perfecting your technology.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So number one is, at the pace of burning, how much of your personal funds you have. My wife and I, we have, spent $330,000 of our personal funds, of every single penny that you could think. You can't do something, kind of halfway, and you have to be either all in or nothing.
So, so you got to say, maybe you should have had that radio lower in the first place. No.
Exactly. So, imagine
that was an expensive radio. Car ride. Go ahead.
Yes, exactly. And then, of course, as you create, your first prototype, you have to gather. You don't have the knowledge all yourself. You have to gather a small team who's willing to, maybe even part-time, to contribute, to your cause. And little by little gain momentum until you get into the clinic in our specific applications. Octane's Medical Innovation Forum is a medtech, very much focused, and so that's where the product, belong to be. So it's very important at the end of the day to visualize exactly where the product is going to end, and so that's why we are here at this conference. It makes sense, and of course we have released our first, prototype for the first time in human history. It's a 300-year-old problem nobody has ever solved. Since the drill was born, the problem came with it, and it stayed.
Wow!
And then so we're over 82%.
How does that feel to get to the part of the prototype, to finally be there? How do you feel?
We feel amazing, first of all, because we're the first team in human history, to come up with a solution. But the other thing is that when we look at the patients and how, people, you have to roll them in some of the patients, with dental phobia, you have to roll them in a wheelchair.
Wow.
That's how, and there are 75 million people in the United States alone that have anxiety and phobia. And then so therefore, seeing a patient for the first time in a chair that is quiet, that is calm, and the doctor is calmer, the doctor is more, and the doctor is protected, so their hearing is protected, and we put them in communication. It meant the world to us. We had even a few patients actually having tears in their eyes, because they just couldn't get a dental, normal dental treatment like any others.
It's tricky for the people that have that. I know. I won't say I had the full phobia, but I had a version of it. In fact, I, for the first time ever, got a shot in my mouth at the dentist 6 months ago. First time ever my entire life. I I had all these phobias around it. So, and by the way, he didn't know that when we came into this interview. He's like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm talking to him right now. That's true. Nor does my audience know. So that's kind of funny. But that was, my dentist knows, because after the fact, he was like, what, Adam, are you kidding me? I'm like, man, it's hard for me to come in here. So that's awesome. I can relate to what they're going to be going through.
Right. And then on the flip side is that, not only we protect, the hearing and then provide a calmer experience, is actually a lot more efficient for the doctor too, because patients who have actually anxiety, they tend to prolong basically the duration of the treatment because you have to give them more carpals and injection. They take your chair time. So up to 400%, a lot less efficient basically for a 5-minute treatment. So we also have a, operational effect that happens there where we significantly reduce the anxiety and hence, the duration of the treatment and make it more efficient.
So talk to me about what happens after you present tomorrow. Like, what are some of the plans going forward on the rollout?
Well, that's an excellent question. So right now, of course, we have a fundraising that's ongoing, etc., which is, very well and going very well. And the next step for us is to complete our minimum viable product. So that first, study that we did, what's going to happen is that it came back, with over 82%, satisfaction rate.
Wow.
But I don't see it that way. I see, in an efficiency of 18% that we need to complete and make it a product that everybody's going to love.
Was that within your expectations when that came back?
I was blown away, actually.
Yeah,
I
that's
said,
what I'm thinking.
That's a Frankenstein to me. And of course, my engineering team doesn't like me to call it that. But I said, until for us to get to a full product, complete, that it's still a long ways to go. However, it just showed me how desperate the market is, because they're spending right now $622 million on solutions that don't work, like active noise cancelling headphone, like earbuds and whatnot, but they just simply don't work on high frequency.
With your initial tests in the market, or even just taking it out there in conversations, like, what's the response been?
I've been very grateful. They said, okay, when can we get this into our office? That has been the biggest response right now. So we have 10 clinics that are lined up for testing our MVP. They've been waiting for about, 2.5 years now. And then so now we're just a year away, from that. So
what do you hope that the audience in the crowd tomorrow at the Octane event, what do you hope they get out of your talk and about learning about the technology? What do you hope they walk away with?
Sure. That's an excellent question. So number one is to recognize that there are over 60 diseases that are directly linked, to oral hygiene. That's the number one thing. And these are, some of them are terminal diseases, right? So
the lives are at risk.
Right. And then number two, remember last time they visited the dentist. And how was that experience? And, did they have anxiety or not and whatnot? Were they uncomfortable and whatnot? And of course, depends on the person. But then the next thing is to live through the life of a person like my wife. Dentists not only have, twice the amount of hearing loss and tinnitus compared to the general population. They have 2.5 times the amount of anxiety, panic disorder, and depression. And they have 17 times the amount of suicide rate compared to other healthcare providers.
Oh, wow.
And I unfortunately lost one of my very good friends to that specific incident. So she committed suicide. She was a dentist back at the University of Virginia in 2008. And that's why Dr. Kaya Stanley, who sits also on the board of Pearl, sits on our board of clinical advisors, because he travels with 25 cases of dental suicide. And the reason why is because of this constant, dump of anxiety from patients on them.
Wow.
You and I, we go
so
there.
that energy that's a thing. It's on them.
And then you're torturing live, and you have to keep a smile. Oh, honey, I'm doing this in your mouth. You're doing great, etc. But you absorbing all that negative energy, etc.
Wow.
Never
thought about that.
And back to back. You and I, we go there and we're done. 6 months later, we see you, bye. You got one injection in your entire life, and thank you so much for sharing. But for them is 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, and every time is dumped.
So the quantity, and then and it's not like there's a break there.
Exactly. And then so therefore, we believe by also penetrating that specific anxiety loop with removing the sound, etc., we're going to calm down the patient and hopefully reduce basically the dump and of the anxiety, on the care providers.
That makes total sense. And then their longevity, not just, of course, of life, but career, of satisfaction. And then you think about how that carries over to their families and their families' life, because then you go, it's natural. We're all humans. So then they go home, and that can't be good.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have actually, 3-year-old twins, and my wife, when she comes home, you can't touch her, you can't talk to her, after 12 years of practice for an hour. She has to go in her own space, take a shower, calm down, and come back, etc. And those stories are hidden from us, and there are 500,000, dental care providers in the United States, and those stories, we don't hear them. And so we're here to make a transformation, of the field, in that way.
Man, love it. I'm so happy to have you on here today.
Thank you.
That being said, what I want you to do is, how do people follow you? How do they follow the journey of the company? Like,
Sure.
how do they follow up?
Basically, we have a website, finally-quiet.com. And then and the name comes because my wife said, it came from the heart.
Yeah.
And then so finally-quiet. And then, of course, on LinkedIn, you can find me, we're there. And then we'll gladly, answer any questions that the folks have, and thank you so much for all the support.
Amazing. And for everybody watching, just so you know, we'll put the links to the website in the show notes so that you can just click on it and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters and you haven't done it yet, hit that subscribe or that follow button. This is a daily show. Each and every day, we're bringing you new content, new ideas, and hopefully new inspiration to help you along the way in your journey as well. So again, hit that subscribe or follow button. And Peman, again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Appreciate
it. Thank you. Bye.